Disappearing without a word may seem like silence to one person, but to the woman left behind, it echoes louder than any noise. It's not just about being gone. It's about what is felt in that space, where conversation used to live, where connection once thrived. And in that sudden emptiness, a wave of emotions rushes in. Each one is real, each one deserves to be acknowledged, and through each one there is power. Emotional responses are often misunderstood, underestimated, or dismissed entirely, especially when they arise in situations of heartbreak, abandonment, or betrayal. Yet, these responses are not signs of weakness. They are vivid, powerful indicators of a living, breathing, feeling human being. When someone suddenly disappears from your life, the emotions that follow, confusion, sadness, anger, and even relief, are not only normal but profoundly valid. They signify that something mattered, that you invested your heart, that you experienced something worth feeling. Society has conditioned many, especially women, to believe they must be poised and collected at all times, even in the midst of emotional upheaval. There's often a subtle pressure to move on quickly, not show too much, or stay strong. But strength is not the absence of emotion. True strength is found in the willingness to feel without letting those emotions define or derail you. It's in acknowledging that your heart has been affected and refusing to apologize for that truth. Every tear shed, every pang of confusion, every moment of silence that screams louder than words is a testament to your emotional depth. To feel deeply is not to be broken, it is to be alive. Emotional responses are the soul's way of signaling that something important has happened. They are your mind and body's attempt to process, make sense of, and eventually heal from what was lost or disrupted. And just because an emotion is invisible doesn't mean it's not real. Emotional pain can weigh as heavily as physical injury. It can disrupt your sleep, your appetite, your focus, and your sense of stability. Yet, this pain carries messages. It asks you to listen. It tells you where you need compassion, where your boundaries may have been crossed, where healing needs to begin. Ignoring emotions doesn't erase them. It only delays their reckoning. And by silencing your emotional truth, you risk losing the opportunity to learn from it. Emotional responses are also indicators of your values. If you feel devastated by someone's absence, it often means you valued the connection, the time invested, or the idea of what could have been. If you feel angry, it likely reflects a sense of betrayal or a breach of trust. These are not bad emotions. They are signals, signposts, and sometimes warnings. They guide you to understand what matters most to you, what needs protecting, and what should not be repeated. Emotions are communicative. When expressed appropriately, they help others understand where you stand. They allow for connection, empathy, and the possibility of repair. Bottled emotions, on the other hand, create internal pressure. Over time, this pressure can manifest in bitterness, anxiety, or a hardened heart. But when emotions are acknowledged and honored, they create space for clarity and eventual peace. The key is not to suppress emotions, but to channel them wisely. Write about them, talk them out with someone you trust, cry if you need to. There is nothing unworthy about feeling deeply. The world might tell you to get over it. But healing is not a race, and feeling does not mean you're stuck, it means you're processing. Moving through emotion, rather than around it, leads to actual growth. So when you feel deeply in response to someone's disappearance, don't shrink from it. Don't rush past it. Let your emotions have their voice. They are valid, they are powerful, and most importantly, they are yours to own without apology. When someone walks out of your life without explanation or closure, it's easy to internalize their absence as a reflection of your worth. You may find yourself asking what you did wrong, if you were enough or if somehow your presence wasn't valuable enough to be honored with respect. But the truth is simple and unshakable. Yourself. Worth is not determined by who leaves, how they leave, or whether they ever come back. It is not up for negotiation. and it does not diminish simply because someone couldn't see or hold space for it. Their silence is not proof of your inadequacy. Their distance does not make you undeserving of love, loyalty, or commitment. It simply reveals where they are in their journey, not where you are in yours. People leave for many reasons: fear, confusion, immaturity, selfishness, or an inability to confront the truth. None of these reasons make you less. None of them mean you failed. Their choice to disappear is not your shame to carry. Self-worth is anchored in how you see yourself, not how others treat you. When your value depends on the behavior of others, you give away your power. You begin to live in reaction instead of intention. But you were never created to chase validation. You were meant to stand rooted in your own truth, unshaken by absence, undimmed by silence. The way someone it says more about them than it does about you. If they could leave without a word, it speaks to their fear of confrontation, their emotional immaturity, or their lack of capacity for real intimacy. It says nothing about your ability to love, your beauty, your intelligence, or your heart. People who ghost, vanish, or walk away without resolution often do so because facing truth feels harder than escaping it. That is not your fault. That is not your burden. Letting someone go does not mean you lose yourself. In fact, letting them go with grace and holding on to your self-respect may be the greatest affirmation of your worth. You do not need to shrink yourself to make someone stay. You do not need to explain your value to anyone who couldn't recognize it in the first place. You are not meant to be tolerated. You are meant to be celebrated. Reclaiming your worth after someone disappears requires intention. It means refusing to let the echoes of someone's silence shape your internal narrative. It means rewriting the story with you at the center, not as someone abandoned, but as someone preserved. Because what if their leaving protected you from a future that could have harmed you more? What if their absence made space for someone who truly sees you, hears you, and stays? Healing isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about knowing that it hurt and still choosing to believe in yourself. It's about crying if you need to, grieving what was or what could have been, and then slowly, with courage, rebuilding your sense of self, this time on your own terms. Your worth is not a puzzle for someone else to solve. It is not hidden. It is not conditional. It is whole, intact, and radiant, even if they walked away. You are still worthy of respect, even if they were disrespectful. You are still worthy of love, even if they failed to give it. You are still enough, even if they never had the capacity to hold your fullness. Their absence did not break you. It revealed your strength. You are not who left. You are who stayed. With yourself for yourself. Stand in that truth. Let it anchor you, and never again tie your worth to someone who didn't have the courage to value it. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. In a world that glorifies independence, control, and the illusion of perfection, the idea of exposing one's emotions, admitting fears, or sharing raw truths can feel like weakness. But real strength isn't found in the mask we wear to appear unbreakable. It's found in the courage it takes to remove that mask and say, "This is me. This is how I feel. This is what I need." Vulnerability is not a liability. It is a declaration of strength in its most authentic form. To be vulnerable is to risk being seen, not just the curated version, but the whole, messy, evolving self. It's choosing to speak when silence might feel safer. It's opening your heart when rejection is a possibility. It's asking for help when pride tempts you to handle it alone. Every time you choose vulnerability, you're choosing truth over performance, connection over isolation, and growth over stagnation. There's a kind of bravery in saying, "I don't have it all together." It dismantles the idea that being strong means being untouched by emotion. In fact, real power comes from being able to sit with your feelings without being ruled by them. Vulnerability is the bridge that connects us to others. It's where empathy begins. It's how we relate, how we build trust, and how we form relationships that are more than surface. deep. Without vulnerability, there can be no real intimacy, because connection requires honesty, and honesty requires the willingness to be seen. Strength doesn't mean always having the answers. It means being able to stand in uncertainty without losing yourself. Vulnerability invites growth because it demands self-awareness. It requires you to acknowledge what's real, even when that truth is uncomfortable. It's not about being dramatic or seeking attention. It's about being human and refusing to apologize for it. There is also wisdom in knowing when to open up and who to open up to. Vulnerability isn't recklessness. It's not giving your heart to anyone who asks or revealing your soul to someone who hasn't earned your trust. It's intentional. It's a conscious decision to honor your own emotional world while allowing others the privilege of seeing it. When handled with discernment, vulnerability becomes one of the most powerful tools for emotional resilience. You don't become weaker by saying you're tired. You don't lose credibility by saying you're hurting. You don't become less valuable by admitting you're scared. You become real, and in that realness, you give others permission to show up more fully too. Vulnerability is contagious in the best way. It shatters walls. It ends cycles of pretending. It replaces pressure with presence. There will always be voices, internal or external, that say being vulnerable makes you weak, but look closely at the people you admire most. They're not invulnerable. They've fallen, failed, and faced dark nights. What sets them apart is not perfection, but their ability to get back up, to feel deeply, and to continue moving forward with an open heart. That's what true resilience looks like. Choosing vulnerability in a world that tells you to toughen up is an act of rebellion. It's a refusal to be hardened by pain or desensitized by fear. It's saying, I will not numb myself to avoid discomfort. I will feel everything and still rise. That is power, that is beauty, that is strength. Vulnerability is not shameful. It's not weakness. It is a bold declaration that you are here, fully present, fully human, and unafraid to be real. And in that truth, you are unstoppable. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers. It rarely asks permission before arriving and often shows up uninvited, disrupting routines, plans, and even identities. Yet beneath its harsh surface lies the potential for transformation. Pain forces a pause. It strips away distractions and comforts and demands attention. In that moment of discomfort, growth begins, not because of the pain itself, but because of how one responds to it. There is a moment, right after a loss or a betrayal or a deep disappointment, when everything feels heavy. It's easy to believe the pain will last forever, but over time, something begins to shift. The heart, while aching, begins to beat a little steadier. The mind, though scattered, starts forming new thoughts. Strength is quietly built in those moments when survival is the only goal. Without even realizing it, pain pushes boundaries, stretches resilience, and uncovers parts of the self that had been hidden or neglected. Growth doesn't happen during the easy times. It happens in the confusion, the questions, the chaos. Pain introduces contrast. Without knowing what it feels like to break, there is no appreciation for wholeness. Without sorrow, joy remains shallow. Pain deepens a person. It deepens empathy, expands emotional intelligence, and sharpens awareness. It breaks down illusions and leaves behind only truth, however uncomfortable it may be. Transformation is not passive. It requires showing up in the midst of pain and saying, I will find something meaningful here. It's resisting the urge to numb, to run, or to bury what hurts. Choosing to lean into pain with intention opens doors to insights and revelations that would have otherwise remained hidden. It doesn't mean glorifying suffering, but rather recognizing that pain, when honored, becomes fuel for something greater. It also reshapes values. What once seemed important begins to lose its grip. Things that used to spark stress or worry begin to fade. Pain has a way of refining priorities. It strips life to its core, revealing what truly matters. Relationships are seen differently, time is valued more, and there is a newfound respect for even the smallest joys. The most powerful changes often come after seasons of struggle. Pain forces reflection. It prompts questions like, who am I without this? Or what does this experience teach me about who I want to become? These questions invite growth. They challenge stagnation and push toward evolution. While pain may feel like a dead end, it often marks the beginning of a new path, one that leads to deeper self-awareness, purpose, and strength. Healing doesn't happen overnight. Growth is slow and often invisible until one day the weight feels lighter, the mind is clearer, and the heart no longer flinches at the memory. The pain didn't vanish. It simply transformed into wisdom. It becomes a story of strength instead of suffering, a reminder of what was endured and what was gained through the process. Those who grow from pain don't just recover. They rise with a new sense of self. They carry lessons that can't be taught in comfort. They develop compassion for others in pain, not out of pity but from true understanding. They no longer fear discomfort because they've walked through fire and emerged stronger. Pain can break, but it can also build. It can isolate, but it can also connect. When approached with openness, it becomes one of life's most powerful catalysts. It won't erase the hurt, but it will make the growth worth it. Out of the darkest nights come the brightest dawns, not because the pain disappears, but because the person facing it grows into someone they were always meant to be. Detachment is not indifference, nor is it emotional coldness. It's the quiet strength of choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. It's about stepping back from outcomes, expectations, and attachments that once held power over the mind and emotions. When practiced with intention, detachment becomes a profound tool for emotional freedom, inner peace, and clear decision making. So much of inner conflict comes from holding on too tightly, trying to control what can't be controlled, change what can't be changed, or predict what isn't yet known. This grip often leads to anxiety, frustration, and disappointment. The harder one clings, the more the mind becomes consumed by what-ifs and should-haves. Detachment invites release. It allows space for reality to unfold without forcing it into a mold of preconceived desires. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding what is within personal power and what is not. It's the conscious decision to stop investing energy in outcomes that are beyond control. When that energy is reclaimed, it can be redirected toward things that truly matter: growth, presence, healing, and purpose. Detachment brings focus. It cuts through emotional noise and clarifies what truly deserves attention. This practice also fosters healthier relationships. Attachment often breeds fear, the fear of loss, rejection, or not being enough. It creates dependency and turns love into a transaction. Detachment, on the other hand, comes from self-respect and wholeness. It allows space for others to be themselves without trying to control their actions, feelings, or choices. From this place, love becomes freer, more generous, and less burdened by fear. Peace isn't found in controlling everything. It's found in trusting that what's meant will stay and what isn't will fall away. This trust removes the urgency to chase, convince, or manipulate. It quiets the need for constant reassurance. Detachment offers the clarity to see people and situations as they truly are, rather than through the distorted lens of fear or unmet expectations. Clarity comes from emotional distance. When emotions are too entangled, perception becomes clouded. Decisions become reactive instead of intentional. Detachment creates space between stimulus and response. It allows for observation rather than immediate reaction. This distance is where wisdom lies. It's where deeper truths are heard and understood. The practice of detachment also requires self-awareness. It asks for honest reflection. What am I holding on to? Why do I feel the need to control this situation? What fear is driving this attachment? Through answering these questions, the grip loosens, insight replaces impulse, And from that insight, a calm strength emerges, a strength that doesn't need to prove, force, or cling. There is freedom in not needing everything to go a certain way. When peace no longer depends on external conditions, it becomes sustainable. Detachment anchors the self in the present moment. It ends the exhausting chase for validation, outcomes, or certainty. It allows for a deeper experience of life as it is, not just as it's hoped to be. In a world that constantly demands reaction, detachment is a radical act of choosing peace. It doesn't mean caring less. It means caring in a way that honors both the heart and the boundaries. It means being fully present but not consumed, fully committed but not controlled, fully loving but not dependent. Through detachment, life becomes lighter, relationships become more genuine, decisions become clearer, and the mind, no longer weighed down by unnecessary burdens, begins to rest. Peace isn't something to chase. It's something that rises when everything else is let go. Detachment clears the path, it opens the door. And on the other side is a kind of freedom that no one else can give, and no circumstance can take away. True strength isn't always loud. It doesn't demand attention, recognition, or applause. It often moves quietly beneath the surface, fueled by self-awareness, choice, and personal responsibility. Reclaiming your power is one of the most courageous things you can do, especially in a world that constantly tries to define your worth for you. It begins with a simple yet profound realization. No one can take your power without your permission, and the moment you decide to reclaim it is the moment your life begins to change. For too long, power may have been handed over, sometimes unknowingly. It might have been given to someone else's opinion, to the fear of rejection, to the need for validation, or to past wounds that continue to echo. This handing over of power is subtle. It hides behind people, pleasing, perfectionism, silence when a voice wants to rise, or settling when something deeper calls for more. And while these patterns might have once offered safety, they often build invisible cages that keep potential locked away. Reclaiming power is not about domination or control over others. It's about sovereignty over your own mind, choices, energy, and direction. It means taking full ownership of who you are, how you show up, and what you will no longer tolerate. It's about drawing boundaries, not from bitterness, but from clarity. It's learning to say no without guilt, yes without hesitation, and move forward without waiting for external approval. Strength shows up in the decision to stop shrinking to fit places you've outgrown. It's in the refusal to keep repeating stories that no longer serve. It's in choosing healing over hiding, action over avoidance, and growth over comfort. Reclaiming power means no longer outsourcing your worth. It's a return to self, a deep remembering of your voice, your values, and your vision. Sometimes this reclamation begins in quiet moments, in the decision to walk away from what drains, in choosing rest instead of burnout, and speaking your truth, even if your voice shakes. Each of these moments is a declaration. I am no longer abandoning myself. They may seem small on the surface, but collectively, they build a foundation of unshakable inner strength. True power is calm. It's not reactive or desperate. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists, grounded in self-respect and authenticity, and it radiates through posture, tone, choices, and presence. When you reclaim your power, you become magnetic, not because you're striving, but because you've come home to yourself. People feel it. They sense the shift, not in arrogance, but in alignment. Reclaiming power also means making peace with the past. Not by pretending it didn't happen, but by choosing to no longer let it dictate your future. It's choosing to learn from the pain rather than live in it. It's allowing old wounds to scar over, not to erase the memory, but to prove that healing is possible and power is always recoverable. No one else can do this work for you, and that's the beauty of it. Because when you realize that your power has always lived within you, not in circumstances, not in other people, you stop chasing it, you start embodying it. And that's where real strength is found. not in being untouched by life's challenges, but in rising through them with your sense of self intact. This is what true strength looks like, showing up even after falling. Speaking up even after being silenced, loving yourself even when the world gives you reasons to doubt. Power reclaimed is power reborn. It's not given. It's remembered, reignited, and lived. And once reclaimed, it becomes a light no one else can dim. Reclaiming your power is not a single moment. It's a daily choice. It's the decision to rise from your past, trust your voice, honor your boundaries, and refuse to abandon yourself no matter the pressure. True strength lies not in how loudly you shout, but in how deeply you know yourself and how boldly you live in that truth. You don't need permission to take up space to heal, or to lead your life with conviction. Everything you need is already within you. Now is the time to remember it, own it, and never let it go again.